me, you, all of us. We have to keep moving because we have so much to rebuild. And if we don't build the future, they will. So we have to keep moving, all of us, together. We grow our movement. We build on this moment. We build our power for our bodies, for our families, for our planet. Our future is now. Let's build power with our friends, our families, our communities. When we move together, when we vote together, we win. Because we're not stopping at November. If we want to renew what's broken in our neighborhoods, in our nation, we have to keep building power, progressive power. Welcome to the largest youth Get Out the Vote tour in America with special guest Bernie Sanders. Are you ready to vote, fight, win?
Please welcome American Federation of Teachers member and nationally certified dual language teacher, Blanca Galvez Perez.
Thank you for, oh no, it's too far? Here. Thank you for having me today. It's my pleasure to be here representing all my colleagues, all these heroes who bravely faced the COVID years and continue to be in the classrooms after that. Not only we did reinvented ourselves, learn new ways to connect with families and make content available for our students, but we also became first frontline workers. We came back in person when there was no vaccine available, putting our lives, our loved ones, and our families at risk. I was lucky then, like I'm lucky now, to have a strong union who fights for our rights, who organizes to ensure our voices are heard. That's how decisions are made. Solidarity forever. Teachers, we are not here for the money. We all know that. But we deserve to be compensated fairly. We need to be protected. Our kids need a safe place to learn. Uvalde should have never happened. We Texas teachers will never recover from that horrible massacre. Because of that, I'm going to vote. Yes, yes. This year, I became an American citizen. This is my first time. Thank you. But this year, I'm voting for them, for Eva Mireles and Irma Garcia, who died protecting their students, and for the beautiful, smart, and caring boys and girls who, like my bilingual students, deserve to have all the opportunities. They deserve to have a curriculum that is culturally proficient and respects where they are coming from and meets them where they are, so we can help them grow and reach their full potential. They are our future. We can have a really bright one, or we can continue repeating the same mistakes. Education for all students is a civil right, and bilingual education is a must in this amazing state of Texas. We must change what is happening in our schools. This is our opportunity to organize, like my union did, Education Austin, to hear from candidates, to decide as a community who to endorse, to then take action, block walking, talking to your neighbors, and then hold them accountable for what they promise. Here in Austin, we have the chance to elect 5 former teachers for the new school board. These candidates, like many others in different ballots, understand bilingual education and special education. They care about our needs and know what we need. We need time to teach. The students need time to learn, and we need to teach the whole child. These are the candidates you need to vote. Children cannot learn if they don't feel safe. We cannot teach if we don't feel safe, respected, and trusted. I am here today to speak for my students' families who cannot vote yet. We still have a lot of work to do setting the pathways for dreamers, for other immigrants to become permanent residents and citizens. I am here today to speak for little E, who has had no previous schooling, but is going to face a STAR 2.0 in May, like that is going to help him. I'm here today to speak for little K, who cannot get reunited with her mom, who hasn't seen in 3 years, but is fighting to get the education she deserves. I'm here today for little D, who cries every time I say the word test, and cannot show how smart she is in that computer, but with time, she will be shining. I'm here today to speak for little W, who is scared that immigration is gonna take his dad, and he's gonna end up on the hands of CPS. So for all of them, I make sure to provide a safe and care environment. I write lessons in which they feel reflected. And for all of them, I am voting to change things. As a mother, as a teacher, and as a woman, please join me, do your part. Our vote is our voice. Nuestro voto es nuestra voz. Thank you. Gracias.
Please welcome Uzziah's dad, Brett Cross.
I'm honored to be here today, yet also saddened. See, I was never a political person. I was one of those that went to work, came home, took care of my kids, wash, rinse, repeat. If I didn't feel as if it affected me directly, then it wouldn't even hit my radar. Unfortunately, there are three major issues that have brought me here today. It's marriage equality, abortion rights, and gun violence. The first, marriage equality. My friends and family were denied the ability to marry who they loved for way too long before June 26, 2015. Now, 9 years later, they're trying to repeal and fight against love. One of my best friends in this entire world deserves to show off her wife, to get to introduce people to her spouse. This is a civil right. But yeah, the other side, they like to talk about love, but only in regards to inanimate, non-conscientious entities. They love their ARs. They love to be a deciding factor for your body. And they love telling you how morally wrong we are for having the mindset that love surpasses genitalia, yet are okay with completely decimating your rights to your own body. The second, I was raised by a single mom, my grandmas, and my aunts. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. I have an amazing wife, and I have 4 wonderful daughters. A man's opinion on the bodies of women is not warranted or even wanted. Unless you have a vagina, it's time to sit down and shut the hell up. Unfortunately, they seem to be of the mindset that their opinion does matter. Do we really want people like that running our country and making decisions that are so outdated and archaic? No! And you're telling me that a bunch of crusty old dudes get to dictate how the people that mean the most to me in my life control their bodies? Vote them out. My third and frankly heaviest hitting reason is because, as most of you are well aware, I lost my son Uzziah in the Uvalde massacre at Robb Elementary on May 24th. A situation that you cannot fathom unless you are living it, and I hope that you never have to. A tragedy that could have been preventable. A tragedy that had a leader who lives in a mansion somewhere over there had reacted to off the hills of Santa Fe by implementing common sense gun laws instead of the lax ones that he's so damn proud of would not have happened. And my son, the children of those whom I now call family, and the teachers who gave their lives for would still be here. On May 31st, 2018, he had promised my dear friend Rhonda Hart, whom lost her 14-year-old daughter Kimberly in Santa Fe, that their school shooting would have been the last. But he lied, and he refuses to honor his promise. He has outright denied us a chance at saving other lives by calling upon a special session to move the age to buy an assault rifle from 18 to 21. He hides behind the good guys with the gun, yet there were over 300 plus good guys outside of my son's classroom and school who were too scared to go in. And why? Because of the weapon that sick son of a bitch had. We have to be the voice of the voiceless and the choice for the choiceless. We must do everything that we can to change the trajectory of this state and our nation, because if we don't, we are complicit and just as much to blame. So vote for Uzziah, vote for Uvalde, for your own kids, spouses, siblings, parents, friends. Vote so that love and happiness wins. Vote so that women have a right to their own body. And vote so that children like mine didn't die in vain. Thank you.
Up next, please welcome the Vice President of Next Gen America, Antonio Arellano.
How you doing, Austin, Texas? You know, I heard that there's a young progressive movement brewing in the heart of the Lone Star State. Is that right? Well, I hope you're ready because my good friend and our special guest, Senator Bernie Sanders, is in the building. Speaking before all of you today is truly such an honor. My name is Antonio Arellano, and I am undocumented and unafraid. I'm a part of a generation of young, fearless immigrants who refuse to hide or to be paralyzed by the intimidation and the fear-mongering tactics of the far right. It ain't gonna happen. I was born in Guanajuato, Mexico, and my family's from La Cinta, Michoacán. You know, back at home, population is about 197 people. There's more people in this room today than back where I come from. But back at home, in my community, we've been neglected, we've been ignored, we've been terrorized. And that, compounded with the lack of health care, with the lack of access to education or economic opportunity, drove my parents to make the life-changing decision to migrate to America in search of hope. When I arrived in the States at just 3 years old, I quickly fell in love with this nation and with its promise of equality and justice for all. But it wasn't long before I realized that that did not apply to me or to my family. My immigrant upbringing exposed me to the discrimination and racism that communities of color have had to endure for far too long. These injustices sparked my lifelong passion to win immigrant communities the respect and the representation that we deserve. In recent years, we've all witnessed how hateful rhetoric targeting immigrants can quickly turn violent. Extremist Republicans are doing everything that they can to take control because they're afraid of our progressive movement. A powerful and multiracial, multilingual movement that refuses to turn its back on the most vulnerable. That's who we are. Together, undocumented immigrants and our citizen allies can create change. For over a decade, I've been working with Black and brown communities building grassroots power, and I am here to tell you that there are hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients just like me, dreamers who are encouraging all of our citizen allies who can vote to rise up and meet this moment. It's about damn time Republicans come to terms with the fact that there are over 11 million undocumented immigrants in America yearning to breathe free. For far too long, immigrants have been treated like a political piñata by the Republican Party, and I'm here to say enough. I've got a radical proposition for our friends on the far right. How about let's fix our broken immigration system for once and for all and provide a pathway to citizenship for all of our neighbors? How about we embrace diversity and stop shrinking away from the opportunity to enrich our society with the cultural contributions migrant communities have to offer? How about we create an immigration policy that does not dehumanize families? This November, let's make it clear to Republican extremists that we won't go back to their anti-immigrant agenda of family separation, discrimination, harassment, abuse, and mass deportation. We're not going back. You know, this election is personal for people like me who are currently temporarily protected under DACA. It's important to remember that DACA was won as a result of the tireless and fearless organizing of undocumented youth. But DACA was just a Band-Aid. It is not a real solution. We must enact legislation that will provide permanent protections to DACA beneficiaries. You know, but Republicans have blocked that legislation in Congress, and now the Trumpified courts are trying to end DACA in the coming months. So I want you to know and make it loud and clear that I will apologize to nobody for my immigrant background. Republicans can try to pin the world against me, but I will never reject my culture, my heritage, or my people. Now is the time for bold and fearless progressive leadership. which is why I am organizing and mobilizing across the country with Next Gen America to activate young progressives who are eligible to vote into action. We need you. The future has arrived, and we refuse to wait any longer to be recognized and respected. You see, I believe in a nation with no discrimination. I believe we will deliver for the essential workers who kept this country running during a global pandemic. I believe we will reject racism and xenophobia, and most importantly, I believe that we will win. 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 Let's be clear. If Republicans take control of Congress, the attacks on immigrants will only continue. Your vote can break that cycle. You have the power to defend those who can't. So this election, I need you to go out and I need you to vote for abortion rights. I need you to go out and vote for climate and economic justice. Vote for affordable health care. Vote for marriage equality. Vote for gun safety. And vote for comprehensive immigration reform. Our movement of proud, progressive people, undocumented and citizen alike, are fighting together for a better America. In 2020, young voters delivered record voter turnout because of investments like organizations like NextGen, and we're ready to do it again. Join us. Join our proud and progressive movement, and let's transform America together. Our future is now, and in this moment, we must lead. Are you ready to lead? Are you ready to vote? Welcome to the future of progressive politics.
Everyone, please welcome Organizing Community Manager of Move On, Suna Shahid.
Hello. Wow, it is so surreal to be here with you all. My name is Sana Shahid. I'm on the organizing team at Move On. I am a Pakistani immigrant. I'm a Muslim woman, but most importantly, I'm a Texan. Everything that I have learned about organizing, about persevering, about building community, I've learned in this great state. Because we, more than anyone, know what it's like to live under the constant attack of MAGA Republicans. The way the state's legislature has stripped away rights of trans youth, of the poor, of women, it's had an impact on my friends, on my community, on my family. But looking out into this crowd, I have hope. Because there's one reason why we're all here. Because we want to win in November. We want Democrats to be elected up and down the ballot in Texas and across the country. Because our rights are under attack. Our freedoms are under attack. And we have one shot to defeat MAGA Republicans. You all know that Republicans have failed us time and time again. It's no secret that they want to ban abortion. It's no secret that they want to continue stripping away our rights. They don't want us to, it's no secret that they deny the impacts of climate crisis. They don't want us to say gay or live freely. So much is on the line. And we have to remember that Democrats have been fighting for us and alongside us by canceling student loans, by lowering the cost of healthcare and prescription drugs, by combating climate change and investing in clean energy, and by making billion-dollar corporations finally pay their fair share in taxes. That's why we must vote for Democrats up and down this ballot, because we have to protect the progress that we've made and continue the fight. We did it once in 2020 when I know things felt insurmountable. And I know, especially looking out into this crowd, we're gonna do it again. Yeah! We have a chance to fight back and fight for our future now. We're going to do that by heading out to the polls. And I know y'all know that early voting has already started, and we can vote up until Friday, November 4th, or on election day, November 8th. But it's gonna take a little bit more than just us in this room to win in November. We can all vote just once, but we can triple our impact by turning out 3 or more friends and family to the polls. Each one, I know it sounds a little too simple to work where, oh, you just text 3 friends and family and it actually triples our impact, but we've proven that it worked in 2020 and I know it's gonna work again. At Move On, our members are calling other members across the country. We're tripling our vote at the polls, but we do need your help. So what I'm gonna ask all of y'all to do is pull out your phones right now. Pull out your phones and text Austin to 668366. I wanna see those phones out. We're gonna text Austin to 668366. That's gonna give you 3 ways that you can help us. Pick one way that you want or 3, it's all hands on deck right now. But what I want y'all to do is talk to your friends and family to turn out the vote, because we are the best messengers for our communities. When we come together, I know that we can elect progressive champions who will fight alongside us, who we can organize, and who will be partners with us in this fight. I know that together we can all save our planet, protect our rights, and build a country that works for all of us in this room. We're gonna vote, we're gonna fight, and we're gonna win. Thank you.
Please welcome the President and Executive Director of Next Gen America, Cristina Sinsun Ramirez.
How's everybody doing? I need to hear you really loud because Bernie Sanders is about to come out soon, y'all. So, as was said, my name is Cristina Sinsun Ramirez. I live in the best city in America, Austin, Texas. And I lead Next Gen, the country's largest youth vote organization that last election helped mobilize 1 in 9 young voters across the country, leading to the largest youth voter turnout in American history. And helped booting out Donald Trump. So we know the transformative power that young people can have as the largest, the most progressive, and the most diverse generational voting bloc in our country. And we also know that despite what MAGA Republicans say, what's best about our country, this country, is our diversity. And I know this too because I live this. My mom is the oldest of 9 kids from southern Mexico, and my dad's a white American hippie that met her while living on a commune in the 70s in Mexico. And my white grandpa used to say that what was best, that my white grandpa used to say that we were even purebred Irish Mexican Americans, my siblings and I. And as a kid growing up, I knew there was nothing purebred about me, but I got to see and learn something that a lot of other people don't. That it doesn't matter where you come from, the color of your skin, who you love, or how you pray. That at the end of the day, we just all want the same things. Do we want to be safe? We want to be healthy. We want to go to great schools and have good jobs that we can have time off from, to be with our loved ones and do what we love. And when Bernie Sanders ran in 2016, he taught our entire country that asking for those basic things wasn't asking for too much. He showed us that asking for those things was asking for what every single person and family in the richest country in the world can and should have. And we know it isn't asking too much that we not only judge our economy by how well big corporations are doing, but by how well ordinary people are doing. And we know it isn't asking too much that every single American be able to go to the doctor when they are sick and have the highest quality health care when they need it. And we know it isn't asking too much to leave it up to women instead of politicians to decide when we are ready to make a family. And we know it isn't asking too much to transition our economy off of dirty fossil fuels that are literally killing us to clean energy that will leave a healthy planet for us and every single future generation. And that's why young people are turning out in record numbers, because we know that our country is at a fork in the road. One that leads towards fascism and authoritarian rule, or one where the people rule. And at Next Gen, we don't put our hope in any single one politician or party. We put our hope in America's young people. And we just happen to be in one of the youngest states in the country, y'all. And if you change Texas, we change the whole goddamn country. And young people know that we aren't just turning out to fight fascism, we are turning out to fight for a vision for our country that is more fair, more just, for having a government that will truly serve the interests of every single one of us. And record-breaking youth voter turnout in 2020 didn't just help us send Donald Trump packing. You know what it helped get us? It helped us get historic gun safety legislation when every politician said it couldn't be done. Young people organized and they got it done. Record-breaking youth voter turnout got us the largest investment by any country on the planet to tackle the climate crisis. And record-breaking youth voter turnout got us student debt relief. And it got us long overdue marijuana reform. That is the power of the youth vote. But we also have to remember, especially in this state where they make it as hard as possible for us to vote, that even when we face what seems like insurmountable odds, we have to remember the power of our numbers. How many people were pissed and outraged when the Texas legislature tried to pass another bill to make it harder for us to vote this last legislative session? Now, I know a lot of people that aren't from Texas. When they think of Texas, they think of people just like my white grandpa, who always wore an amazing pair of cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. And our state has a lot of great white cowboys. But our state is actually majority young, brown, and black. We are the third youngest state in the country. Only Utah and Alaska are younger than Texas. So the power that they fear are young people voting. So this last legislative session, when they were debating those bills, we had to remember our power. So Next Gen and Jolt and Move Texas and a bunch of other groups, we decided to go to the Texas legislature to show that power. Now, Beto lost by, 220,000 votes in 2018? Took 71% of the youth vote. Well, you know how many young people of color turn 18 every year in Texas? 270,000. So when they were debating those bills, we wanted to show our power to those legislators and to the millions of young people of color that they were trying to silence. So we took in 36 youth activists with backpacks filled with 270,000 different colored rose petals. And we took them up to the Texas Rotunda, and we all got into place. And we waited for the signal of when we were supposed to drop those roses to show our power, to show our numbers. And we waited until 19-year-old Tori Balitierra came out and stood right in the middle of the Texas Star, and she looked up at us, and then she started to sing as loudly and as powerfully as she could, Amazing Grace. And then we dropped all of those flowers all around her, and as they floated all around her coming down, you could feel the power of our numbers. You could feel in that moment the history that we were making, of those that came before us and died for our right to vote, and those that will come after us. And that day we sent a message to those politicians that ultimately we will win because we have the numbers and the power to win, and we will organize until we do. And along the way, we will fight back against your ugliness with our beauty, against your darkness with our light. And if you try and cut a rose bush down, guess what? It'll grow back. So let's send a message to every single politician that is trying to take our country and our state backwards, that if they want to cling to the past, they can have it. But the future, that's going to belong to all of us. So I want you all to help me welcome Esther Ramos. Now you're probably wondering, why does this woman look so damn good in a quinceañera dress? But I'm going to let her explain that really quickly. Give it up for Esther.
Hello, everyone. Every 30 seconds, a young Latino turns 18 and becomes eligible to vote in the state of Texas. This is our time. Through Jolt Initiative's Poder 15, we are building a movement that works to create a culture of voting rooted in the power of quinceañeras and in the power of the Latino community. Demographics alone aren't destiny, but increasing civic participation through quinceañeras will create a new tradition that many can follow. Because we are brown, we are beautiful, and we are unstoppable. Thank you.
All right, yo, the man of the hour. Now, Bernie is a beloved figure in Travis County because he took Travis County in 2016 and 2020. Raise your hand if you voted for him. a movement across our country that made us believe our democracy and government could be for all of us. He inspired young people across the country to run for office as progressives, unabashed, and we have started to transform the entire Democratic Party in the process. So give it up for the one, the only Senator Bernie Sanders!
Thank you. All right. No, this is not about me. It is about you. And it's about your future. And it's about how your generation is going to change this country and change the world. Let me thank Next Gen and Move On for sponsoring this event. I believe we have somewhere out there a young man who is going to be one of the great leaders in the U.S. Congress. Please welcome Greg Casar. Greg there? Well, he's there somewhere. And thank you for helping. He is going to win the election, and thank you very much for sending him to Washington. We desperately need him. Now, I know, and you know, that midterm elections are not all that sexy, right? Nobody is running for president, and there aren't these big national debates, and all the media is not focusing on everybody's life and all that stuff. So many people think that midterm elections are not important. Many people don't even know the names of their congresspeople or their senators or anything else. But let me here to suggest to you that if any of your friends think that is the case, stand up and tell them they are dead wrong. Look, it is no secret that millions of people around this country, including many young people, think politics today is bullshit. There you go. I agree. But what we have got to understand is that what is going on right now in America is literally unprecedented in the modern history of this country. Now, I wish I could give you a really cheerful, bouncy speech, but what I want to tell you is what you already know, and that is our country today faces more enormous challenges than this country has faced in the modern history of our times. You all know what they are. I'm just take a step back. This pandemic has taken over 1 million lives. It is still with us. It has had a devastating impact on the mental health of kids and of the general population. All right. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by the pandemic and you weren't able to go to school, you weren't able to just talk to somebody, wanted to see his grandmother who was in a nursing home, unable to do that, it has had a terrible impact on us. We turn on the television and we see about climate change. I don't have to lecture anybody in Texas about the impact of climate change. All right, but what you're seeing here in Texas, you all know, is going on all over the world. All right? And people are saying, what's going to happen? How does the whole world, and it would be difficult, but not that difficult. It was just an American problem. It's not. America could do everything right tomorrow. You got China, you got Russia, you got Europe, you got Latin America. The entire world is going to have to come together to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of the planet. All right? All right. So you got that issue out there. You got a Supreme Court that is living in the 18th century. who in the year 2022 came up with the brilliant idea, I mean, it's literally unthinkable, that women are not smart enough to be able to control their own bodies. And we're going to deal with that issue, and that is part of what this election is about. And then again, I don't have to tell the people of Texas about an issue I have a hard time, to tell you the truth, talking about. And that is the horrible gun massacres that we have seen in this country. I don't have to tell you about that. You have lived through it. And our inability to get the kind of gun safety legislation that we need to protect the children and protect all Americans. So that's on our mind. And we turn on the TV and you see the horrible war in Ukraine and the destruction that's going on. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, if you throw your shoe at the television set when you see the news, you are not alone. These are horrible times, all right? But the issue is, in the midst of all of these terrible challenges that we face, it is very easy to say, screw it, leave me alone. I'm getting out of here. I don't want to think about these things. And millions of people, understandably, that's how they're responding. I don't want to deal with this crap. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. But the truth is, that type of despair is not an effective option. The option that we need is for people to come together, to stand up and say, yes, these are difficult times, but we are going to work together on issue after issue. We are going to address these issues. And then in the midst of all of that, you have right-wing Republicans who are doing something that I never would have thought as a United States Senator that I would ever have to talk to. You know, in my political career, I've debated people on health care, debated people on education, climate, and so forth. But I never had to debate whether or not the United States should remain a democracy. And you got Trump and his friends peddling a horrific big lie. So let us be clear, Mr. Trump, you lost that damn election. You know, and what democracy is about, you know, it's, I've run, I've lost, people lose. You win, you lose. All right? All right. But, it's another story. But, you know, you don't go around saying, all right, you know, I lost an election. It is fraud. Because the only way I could lose an election, because I'm so brilliant, I'm so smart, I'm so popular, is if there was fraud. I mean, that is the undermining of American democracy. But it is not only Trump and his right-wing friends who are trying to undermine American democracy. I've got to tell you this, is that right now you have a political system which is absolutely corrupt. Yeah! Look, what democracy is supposed to be about is she wants to run against me. All right, you make your case. You tell the people what you stand for, why you want their support. You criticize me. We go through it. And at the end of the day, somebody wins. But democracy is not about billionaires buying elections. And right now, the wealthiest people in this country are spending close to $2 billion to elect people who will work on their behalf and to oppose people who are standing up for working families. So what we have got to do, and let me be honest with you, I just met a couple of people today who said, Bernie, you got me involved in politics. I ran for school board, I ran for this, and it moves me. That's a wonderful thing for me to hear. And I want all of you who are, have that interest or have that bent to be thinking about running for office. But I don't want you to have to spend half your life, if you're running for office, to be trying to hustle money from wealthy people. That's not what democracy is supposed to be about. So what we have got to do is overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And we have got to move to public funding of elections. Now, there's another issue out there that for kind of obvious reasons we don't spend enough time talking about. This is an enormous issue, and it has to do with the fact that in many respects our country is moving toward an oligarchic form of society. You know what that means? What an oligarchy means is you have a handful of very, very wealthy people who control almost all aspects of the society. This is not unusual. It existed in Latin America. Many countries exist all over the world. It did not used to exist in America. But what you have right now is a small number of billionaires who have enormous power over our economy, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. They have enormous power, I've just discussed, over our political system. They buy and sell politicians, and they also own the media. You got about 8 major media conglomerates that give us about 90% of the news in America, control about 90% of what we see here and watch. You got billionaires owning newspapers and major Wall Street firms controlling large TV networks, etc. So that is what we're living with right now. And the result of all of that power on the top is that we end up with an economy today that is working extremely well for the billionaire class. All right, and I want you to hear this. Right now in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time in the history of America. You got that? Never been wider. You got 3 people, including a local resident here, who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Got that? 3 people here, 165 million Americans over there. You have the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. During the pandemic, this terrible pandemic, when we have lost over 1 million Americans, when tens of thousands of essential workers went to work because they didn't have much of a choice. They had to feed their families. They went into hospitals. They went into warehouses. They went into public transportation. They went into meatpacking plants. Tens of thousands went to work and died. But during that very same pandemic, the billionaire class saw a $2 trillion increase in their wealth. So workers died, billionaires became much richer. Today in America, if you are working for a large corporation, the CEO of that corporation now makes 400 times more than the average worker. When I was a kid, that gap was 20 to 1. It is now 400 to 1. So what you have now is an economy. People on top are doing better than in any time in history. Working families are struggling, and inflation has made a bad situation worse. Now, let me say a word on inflation, because many of my Republican colleagues are running all over this country saying inflation was caused in America by Joe Biden, by Bernie Sanders, by others. So let me say a word about that. Right now, as I hope all of you know, sadly, inflation, which is 8% in America, is a global problem. It is 10% in the United Kingdom, 2% higher than here. It is 11% in Europe, and it is high in countries all over the world. The reasons for inflation are pretty well known. They have to do with a pandemic and the breakdown in supply chains. Workers were not coming to work. Companies were not getting the supplies they need. Prices went up. That's number one. Number two, this horrific war in Ukraine has also created inflationary pressure. Those are 2 important reasons. But let me tell you the third reason, which in fact is the most important reason for high prices that the Republicans don't talk about, and that is corporate greed. So there was a study that came out recently which told us that 54% of inflationary increases was due to excessive corporate profits. So gas prices have gone up all over the country. It turns out that the 5 major oil companies are enjoying record-breaking profits. Exxon made last year, let me get my facts right here. Exxon made, there it is. All right. Exxon's profits are up 280% over last year. Chevron's profits are up 277%. ConocoPhillips's profits are up 146%. But it's not just the oil companies. Pharmaceutical industries, major 3 drug companies, 90% increase in their profits. Food companies enjoying huge profits as well. So, and I want you to think about this for a moment, and think about the lack of morality that exists in this billionaire class. Here you have a country which is dealing with this terrible pandemic. You got the war in Ukraine. You got all of this stuff going on. You might think that at this particular moment, some of these CEOs would say, what can we do to help working families? How can we keep food prices down? How can we keep gas prices down? How can we keep prescription drug prices down? Instead, they're doing exactly the opposite. They're saying, hey, there's all this chaos in the world right now. Everybody's confused, worried about everything. Now is the time for us to raise prices at a sky-high level, make huge profits, and we can give those profits back to the wealthy stockholders who own shares in our company. So that is what we're taking on. And let me say something else. Republicans are claiming incorrectly that it was the passage of the American Rescue Plan which caused inflation in America. As just indicated, that's not the case. But let me be very clear. As the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, first time I ever got a hand for being chairman of the Budget Committee. I helped write that bill. And let me tell you this, and I want you all to think back 2 years ago. Think about the beginning of the pandemic. There were no vaccines, no treatments. Thousands of Americans were dying every single day. People were not going to work. People by the millions were losing their jobs. Remember that? Yeah. Hospitals were overwhelmed with COVID patients, and some of them were on the verge of collapse. Schools and universities were going broke. Cities and towns and states no longer had the revenue they needed because their tax base had shrunk significantly. So let me come before you and tell you, I make no apologies for having fought to put $1,400 into every man, woman, and child in this country. In the midst of an economic crisis, that is what you do. I make no apologies that when millions of people were losing their jobs, we extended unemployment benefits. I make no apologies that when hospitals were overrun, we got billions of dollars to keep our hospitals going. I make no apologies that when parents were struggling to feed their kids, we got them $300 a month in a child tax credit. Now that's what I believe. That's what the president believes. And now you got the Republicans coming forward, and I want to tell you what they believe, because they will not tell you what they believe, so somebody should. And this is what they want to do if they gain the House and the Senate. And it is possible they may, unless we stop them, which is why you got to come out and vote. This is what they want to do. They want to repeal the estate tax. Now, the estate tax is a tax that applies only to the top 1/10 of 1%. Got it? That is when a very, very wealthy person passes away, the tax paid by his or her heirs. That's what that tax is. It applies to the top 0.1%. If that tax were repealed, as the Republicans want, it would cost us, it would increase the national debt by $1.75 trillion. So at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, they want to give an unbelievably large tax breaks to the top 0.1%. And in order to pay for that, they got another brilliant idea. And that is they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs. So any person out there who is a Republican or independent, I want you to think whether those are the priorities that you think America needs right now. Do you think we really need massive tax breaks for billionaires and cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? I don't think so. Now, what this campaign is about, it's not just all of the issues that I've talked about. It's also about having a vision for where we want this country to go into the future. So I don't want us to get hung up in just attacking right-wing Republicans and dealing with the crises of the day, of which there are many. I want us to be thinking where we want to go as the wealthiest country in the history of the world. What kind of nation do we want for you and your kids? What do we want? All right. Number one, I think we want a government that works for all of us and not just for wealthy campaign contributors. And on an economic front, what do we want? What we want and what we believe is that if you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. We got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage. What we understand, and I just went to a wonderful meeting with the Texas AFL-CIO a little while ago. What we also understand is that if workers are going to earn decent wages and decent benefits, they've got to belong to a union. And I want to congratulate the people of Texas, because here in Texas we have seen a significant growth in trade unionism. Workers, nurses, hotel workers are forming unions, and I congratulate them. We've got to make it easier for workers to form unions, not harder. And when we talk about it again, when we talk about where we want to go as a nation, we have got to join the rest of the industrialized world and understand that health care is a human right, not a privilege. We have an extraordinarily dysfunctional health care system today. It is quite unbelievable. Right now, we are spending over $12,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country on health care. Can you imagine that? $12,000, $48,000 for a family of four. And yet, despite spending twice as much per person on health care as any other country, you got that? We spend twice as much. We got 87 million Americans, including a lot here in Texas, who are underinsured or uninsured. And what happens? Think about it. You know this. If you are uninsured or underinsured and you get sick and you don't have the money to go to the doctor, what happens? You get sicker. 60,000 Americans die every single year because they don't get to a doctor on time. So when we talk about the future of America, what we are talking about is a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to all of us, and that means no out-of-pocket expenses. It does not mean a healthcare system that gives the insurance companies tens of billions in profits each year. That's right. That is part of a rational healthcare system. All right. When we talk about healthcare, we're also talking about ending the absurdity of Americans paying, in some cases, 10 times more for prescription drugs as do the people of other countries. So we are going to have to summon the courage to take on the pharmaceutical industry, whose greed is extraordinary. All right. Now, by the way, I have often been called an extremist. You say, I'm the extremist. Well, all of these ideas are what the American people want. These are not radical ideas. I just had the ambassador from Finland came to Vermont. We did a town meeting there. Many of the ideas that I'm talking to you about now, they exist in Finland, in Sweden, throughout countries throughout the world. Give you another example. All right. Right now, we remain virtually the only major country on earth not to provide paid family and medical leave. You understand that? There are women in America today who are giving birth and they have to get back to work a week or 2 weeks from now because they need the income. Talk to the ambassador of Finland. In Finland, you have a baby, 3 months off, full pay. 7 months off, 70% of your pay. That is a civilized democracy which understands that parents, moms and dads, have the right to bond with their babies. When we talk about where we want to go, I do not want to see us continue a situation where we have a horrendously broken child care system in America. All right? Do you know what it costs in Vermont? Probably not different here. It costs $15,000 a year to put a kid in child care if you're lucky enough to find a slot. All right? And the workers there are very low paid. I want to see quality child care affordable to every parent in America. And I'll tell you what else. And none of these ideas are radical. They're what the American people understand to be right. Think about it. We live in a competitive global economy. 20 years ago, 50 years ago, it may have been okay if you had just a high school degree. If you had a high school degree 50 years ago, you know what? You can go out, you can make it into the middle class. All right? Today, that is no longer the case. What we have got to do is make public colleges and universities tuition free. I don't want one kid in America not to be able to get a college education because his family or her family lacks the income. And by the way, if our Republican colleagues believe it is okay to provide close to $2 trillion in tax breaks to the top 0.1%, yes, we can cancel all student debt in America. And when too many young people have developed criminal records for possession of marijuana, we should legalize marijuana all across this country. When we have 600,000 Americans who are homeless, when the cost of housing all across this country is going off of the roof, we have got to build the millions of units of low-income and affordable housing we desperately need. So that is where we are today. We are at an unprecedented moment in American history, taking on right-wing extremists who are trying to deny women the right to control their own body, who are trying to undermine American democracy, who are ignoring the existential threat of climate change, among many other things. And our response must not be to throw our hands up in the air in despair. Our response must be to fight back. So tonight I am asking you to do everything you can, not only to come out and vote, but to make sure you bring 2 or 3 of your friends as well. The future of our country is at stake. Let's go out and win this enormous struggle. Thank you all very much.